Hi, everybody, and welcome to Andrew Reviews, where today I'm taking a look at a good old piece of nostalgic 80s cheese. Probably something that you've heard of, but you probably never sat down and fully watched. Yes, that's right. Today I'm taking a look at the good old movie, War Games. Honestly, this isn't as bad as it might seem. That's today on Andrew Reviews. Back in the 80s, movies were plentiful and actually had decent plots to them. Not like nowadays where it's mostly, let's see how much money we can push into a film to sort of make it either good or bad. And most of the time, it's Disney shoveling the big bucks into Marvel Cinematic Universe productions, or Sony chucking crap tons of cash in somewhere, or Warner Brothers to DC. You get the picture. But back in the 80s, movies actually had a plot. They actually had some useness to them. They actually had some stayability. Hell, there's quite a few movies from the 80s that I plan to review. Why? Because they're damn good. They have staying power that has lasted them decades after they came out. They have the ability to outlast anything. And they were probably made on the cheap. Well, with 1980's evaluation of currency, not 2020's evaluation. By now you would have to adjust for inflation, and yeah, then you're talking a small country. But back then, it's still pretty expensive, but not as bad as nowadays. If you could make a movie for what they made back then now, and it made a huge profit, you'd be good. No, but I digress. So what is War Games exactly? Well, if you're a fan of Matthew Broderick, you probably know this movie. If you're not, well, you're going to probably be after this. So, what's the movie about? Well, Broderick's character is a high school kid, and he's into computers. But before we get into all of that, I love one of the best parts in this is the opening. You're in the middle of, I'm assuming, the Antarctic or Siberia or someplace where it's really, really cold in a secret U.S. government facility where they have the nuclear launch weapons. Yay! And they're running a drill of sorts for the nuclear launch code. You know, like what would happen if all hell broke loose and Armageddon came today. Yeah. It doesn't go very well, and then we're pretty much taken to what I assume is the place that they've constantly used for the outside of Stargate SG-1. Though I probably couldn't confirm that if I tried. But anyway, what happens is we're introduced to this wonderful, powerful computer that is in charge of the military's vast weapon systems. Excuse me for a minute, boys and girls, while I laugh hysterically at this. Okay, we're going to stick a computer from the 80s into a government facility and just have that thing run rampant with power. Okay, brilliant idea. And while we're at it, let's get a toaster to run a television station. And a blender can pretty much run the sewer department. That shouldn't be a problem at all. Yeah! Well, the computer itself is apparently pretty sophisticated, knowing every single strategy ever created and has ways to get around other strategies. Then we're introduced to Broderick's character, the snot-nosed kid by the name of David. Yeah. He's an interesting little kid. Apparently, he's late to the reading of the failed science tests. It's in his class. Oh, by the way, he's a high schooler. That's the best part. And one of the best one-liners in this movie. Does anybody know about asexual reproduction? To which his character replies, your wife? Yeah. Yeah, it's a good joke. I know I didn't do it justice, but it's a good joke. Anyway, he gets sent to the principal's office, which is part of his master plan. See, Genius Hacker Boy here knows where the school keeps its password for their computer system. You have to remember, back in the 80s, computers were extremely hackable. No, I'm not even joking. Like, the best type of RAM you could get for a computer is literally on one of my sticks of SD RAM, like a freaking SD flash drive that I have from years ago. There's like 512 megabytes of RAM. That was a huge amount back then. Yeah, we're talking 80s nostalgic cheese here. Now we get flash drives that are like 1 terabyte in size. There are 1 terabyte SD cards. Yeah. We're talking some good old nostalgic 80s retro cheese. So, what does David want? David wants a new computer. David's failing a lot of courses in school. David decides to use his superpowered genius brain, instead of actually applying himself and bettering himself through school and studies. Nah, screw that crap. I'm going to hack into the school's computer because I know what the password is and I know how to do it because I'm the super genius, and just go to town on his grades. Pretty much give him a much better grade. Oh, and the girl he kind of likes too, because of course she came along for the ride. Yeah, it's so much fun. But the movie itself does get a lot better. See, all while this is going on, he finds out about the new computer system. So he wants to find it. So he dials every phone number around the area where the computer is being built or sold, one of the two. And he's literally, basically just auto-dialing with his computer. To which the girl goes, "Isn't that going to be expensive?" "Oh, there are ways around that. Hack into the phone company, change the bill." Dude, you are probably single-handedly the reason why Bell Atlantic probably went out of business and had to merge. Hell, I remember watching Pirates of Silicon Valley and learning about the Blue Box because of the Captain Crunch whistle that allowed you to make free long-distance calls. Yeah, that was way, way, way back in the day. If you ever want to learn more about this stuff, I highly recommend checking out the 8-Bit Guy. He does a lot of stuff like this over on his YouTube channel, but I'm getting ahead of myself. He actually finds the secret back door to a military installation, but he mistakes it as the computer company. He wants to play some of the games that they have, but he doesn't know how to crack the code to get it. So what does he do? He goes to the guru, somebody he knows that's better at him at computers, and gets some advice. Find a back door. To which the nerdy annoyance goes, "Well, you're talking about our back doors and there's a girl there. You're giving away all of our trade secrets." Yeah, no, he's not. He's not. But it's a good line, but he's not. So, how does he have to do this? Simple. By going through Falcon's maze. See, Falcon was the guy that created the computerized system. However, he sort of become a recluse, living on a small island, waiting out D-Day. No, seriously, he's literally on a small little island, waiting out D-Day. What does that tell you? Anyway, he created Joshua. Not only his actual son, that sadly passed away, but the computerized system, which is the password, which is basically what they're going to call this thing for the rest of the movie. It's Joshua now. But I like that. That works. Joshua. Let's put a name that sounds very bland and normal to a massive death machine that can pretty much end us all when it gets a pissed off microbit. Sure, okay, it gets a virus in it, and all of a sudden we're pretty much eating swamp rat gizzards for breakfast. Okay, not a problem there. I don't like that name. It's an alright name, but not for a villain. I mean, what sort of villain has the name of Joshua? That's almost like being called Cocoa Puffs. That'd be a great idea for a villain, Cocoa Puffs. Who are you? I'm Cocoa Puffs. Yeah, no, it's not a really good villain name, is it? Well, anyway, Joshua is playing a version of War Games, which is what David thought. It's basically thermonuclear war, because he wanted to play thermonuclear war. Only thing is, Joshua isn't playing a virtual reality game, it's playing it for real. Like, it's actually thinking and simulating that all the other countries in the world are starting to launch World War III. We're all screwed! Only it stops. Why? Because David has to take out the trash and shuts the program down. However, the FBI manages to find him, which is ironic actually in an 80s movie, and track his ass down. Basically going curbside pickup on his sorry little high school ass and taking him to, well, a far, far away place. Where exactly? Yeah, far, far away. They take him to the government facility where he's basically incarcerated and basically questioned by the guy who played the bad guy in 9 to 5. I forget his name off the top of my head. And yeah, that's basically it. He actually tries to access Joshua to tell Joshua to stop, but is quickly arrested again. Then has to MacGyver his way out of the situation, literally by using his mind. The thing that got him into this mess in the first place, he uses to get out of this mess, at least part of it anyway, and manages to sneak out with a tour group in plain sight of the guards, who probably were the ones that arrested him. Brilliant security system! Wow! Oh, and I thought that turnstile at Walmart was a joke. Yeah. He ends up escaping, going to a payphone, and doing some phone fracking to basically get himself some money from the girl that he was with earlier to get closer to Falcon. He knows where Falcon is because he's been studying up on Falcon to try to access and crack his code so he can play the games, which he did, and is now doomed the world. Meanwhile, our lovely DEF CON meter is getting closer and closer to, oh my god, we're screwed! Yeah, literally. So what's going to happen now? Well, turns out the girl comes along. Forgive me, I forget her name off the top of my head. But she comes along. And yeah, they go to Falcon. Falcon is, like I said, living on an island, doesn't give a shit, and explains to them that humanity is destined to basically eradicate itself. Whenever we mess up, the reset button gets hit and we begin life anew. Happened to the dinosaurs, it will happen to us. Good night. You missed the last ferry. Feel free to spend the night. I have a front row seat for when the end of the world happens. That's why I specifically asked to be put here. So, what happens next? Well, Falcon has a change of heart. But meanwhile, David and the girl are trying to get off the island, only he reveals he can't swim. He was hoping to learn someday, figuring there was going to be more time, but now there isn't. Yeah, not exactly a good way to go here. However, Falcon's change of heart brings him to the point where he has to contact the military, get a helicopter, and decides it's time we fix this problem once and for all, bringing us into the end game. Keep in mind, this is a very long movie, so I am really giving you the Cliff Notes version here. I'm condensing an almost 2-hour plus movie into roughly 20-some minutes. So forgive me if I'm skipping stuff. Anyway, Falcon and the kids arrive, manage to quickly get inside before the place is put on lockdown, literally as the door's closing behind them, and are then taken to, well, central nervous system, where he basically goes, don't do anything, it's a bluff, it's a game, you people aren't that stupid, and then proceeds to try to figure it out with David as to what the hell's going on and how they can save this. However, Falcon's a little annoyed. See, it turns out they've closed off his back door. Yeah, you can thank David for that one, because that's how David got into the system in the first place. Yeah. Meanwhile, Joshua is ticking away at finding the nuclear launch code. Oh, goody, we're screwed. He eventually gets it, but before he's able to launch it, they manage to finally access the system. How? By pulling up a list of games and picking the one that isn't on there. The only game where you can never win, and you can always, always, always tie. Tic-tac-toe. How do you get to play tic-tac-toe on a computer? Well, if you want it to play itself, set number of players to 0. And Joshua begins to play itself, quickly realizing that it can't win. Then it tries to put this new information into the simulation that it's been running this entire time, showing that no matter what outcome, everybody loses. Nobody wins. It's basically a massive loss. And then realizes that, well, this was a waste of time. How about a nice game of chess? Yeah, that's it. That is literally how the movie ends. They save the day by overheating the computer, causing it to realize that this is not going to work no matter what it does. And then, basically, wants to play a game of chess. And that's how the movie ends. Yeah. So what are my thoughts on this? It's a good movie. It's definitely a nostalgic 80s movie if you've ever wanted one. But as far as plot-wise, it's good. Aesthetic-wise, it's quite good. Even nowadays, it holds up quite well. Especially the fact that if you're a huge fan and into like the retro scene a bit, it does have its staying power and its plus side. But it also has a lot of what the holy fuck did I just watch? Not to mention a larger amount of why in the hell did I just watch this, with a slight mixing in of, oh dear God, why? And that's mostly just after you finish the final scene where it just kind of ends. It's almost like they ran out of paper in their printer and just said, yeah, you know what, that's the end of the movie, that's good. It's sort of like Hotel California, the song. If you ever listen to that song, it always sounds like more is needed to be told of the song. It just ends abruptly. And I've always felt that way about this movie. Nothing will ever change my mind. Sure, okay, it's not one of the worst 80s movies that I've ever seen. It's actually one of my highest rated 80s movies. I love this one. But at the same time, it feels like it's incomplete. Almost like there was more to the story that we didn't get. I mean, besides the fact that David was technically arrested by the FBI and the government, why was he just not, he was just absolved of all those charges? I mean, his parents had to have been worried sick, at least because I think the girlfriend said something at one point that they're worried sick. The school is never really mentioned again, except for you've been hacking into your school's network all the damn time. The fact that they're pulled up the whole, oh look, we found out plane tickets and all this, and who's this girl and this person, and it's like, oh, that was just a joke. No. They all think it's some part of a master strategy, and they don't realize they're dealing with a high schooler who literally has way too much intelligence. But it basically just ends with everybody, yeah, you did good, kid, way to go. We'll just forget about the last hour or something of this movie where you basically almost caused World War III. No, you did good. You're going to have a job with us in 5 years, not even 5 years. We'll just give you a job. Fuck it. You're going to be rich, kid. You're going to be working for us to pay off the debt for years. But, I mean, I just don't understand it. It's a good movie, though. I will say that. It is a good movie. But there's just parts of it that still bother me to this day. But I digress. If you want to check out War Games, last time I saw it was up on YouTube Movies. If not, I highly recommend getting a copy of this if you can. I give it a solid 4.5 out of 5. Seriously, 4.5 out of 5. This is a worth it movie. And until next time, I'm Andrew Rhodes, and this has been Andrew Reviews. Bye, everybody, and, well, thanks for hanging around.